Salutations YouTube, Lord Gatheridge here. Before I start this video, I need to have a little bit of a chat. I asked for 100 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're close to hitting that target, and it's the middle of May, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watched my videos, to everyone who's subscribed, liked the videos, left a comment. It means a lot. And with this video, I'm just going to put this out there. I'm going to leave a little disclaimer because it's harrowing. Like, it's not, I mean, it is like the West, but this guy's a bit of a social justice warrior. I say social. He was kind of like a self-vigilante due to what happened to him as a kid, which is fair enough. He's taking the law into his own hands. In case you didn't see by my post, people would rather have him released. His nicknames include Hannibal the Cannibal, or to others the Brain Eater, and you'll find that out in this video as to why they call him that. Also, the other disclaimer is that this contains details of child abuse, sexual abuse towards children, so if you would rather not listen to any of that, feel free to click off, and I'll see you in the next video. But if you want to keep watching the video, let's begin. Robert Maudsley was born in Speke, Liverpool on the 26th of June 1953. Kind of ironic that he was born in a place in Liverpool called Speke, and in Liverpool they can't fucking speak. I'm sorry, it was there. As with most serial killers, he didn't have the best upbringing. He may one day have the nickname Spoons, but he wasn't born with anything close to a silver spoon in his mouth. Quite the opposite, actually, because when he was 6 years old, a neighbour reported the parents of the children to social services for neglecting Robert and his siblings. Already scumbag parents, but they get even more scummy, as you'll find out as well. He was the fourth out of 12 children in that impoverished family, but it was him, his brothers Paul and Kevin, and his sister Brenda who grew up in a Catholic orphanage named Nazareth House. Back in these days, in the late 50s, early 60s, I mean even to some present day, orphan children's homes don't have the best reputation. But it's said that Robert, who at the time was very intelligent for his young age, I'm going to put that out now there, I'm going to put this out here now, did a little bit of research. His IQ was 145, so genius level IQ. He was intelligent for his young age, and he had a good relationship with the nuns he loved and trusted. But that would come to an end as 8 years later, when he was roughly 14, his parents, who were already accused of being neglectful and not suitable to bring up children, took Robert and his siblings back after an adoption was brought up. Now, I'm going to say this as well. Some people thought that it was his parents who did it, but other sources say that it was his grandparents, just to give them back to the parents. Anyway, the passive aggression they previously received at home would now become active torture. All the kids were beaten daily. Speaking of that, because they were poor, the dad told them to steal things for the family. And when the children got caught stealing, he would beat them. Not for stealing, he would beat them for being caught. The extremely violent father would love nothing more than to take his rage out on Robert. Robert got it the worst, as it was him who stood up for his siblings. During his teens, he was locked in a room for 6 months. Foreshadowing to what would happen in the future. When the door opened, it was for scraps of food or glasses of water. And this is where, if you want to turn off, you can, feel free. I don't blame you. The only other time that door would open is if he was beaten and raped by his dad. He was once quoted as saying, I can always remember now when he turned that lock. When he came in, he'd have a poker or a piece of wood in his hand, or even a rifle. And I remember he busted that rifle over my back. So in other words, people, his dad literally hit him so hard with the rifle that the rifle broke. He then said after he beat me, he'd close the door, I'd hear the key turn, and he'd walk away laughing. So you can agree that his dad's a bit of a dickhead. After these beatings, the parents then sent Robert back to social services, where he lived in different foster homes. When his siblings asked what had happened to him, the parents told him that he died and they wouldn't see him again, and there would be no funeral, and that was that. And because the children were so afraid of them, they chose not to question them. When he became a young adult, Robert left Liverpool, good lad, and moved to London for a fresh start, but all he found was more pain. He even spent time in and out of different psychiatric hospitals after attempting to take his own life. During his time in London, he developed a really bad drug addiction, and to feed his addiction, he offered sexual services to men while working as a male prostitute. On March the 14th, 1974, the 21-year-old Robert killed his first person. He met a man named John Farrell. He requested for Maudsley to offer his services, and upon doing so, in what would be considered shameless and vile gloating, he showed Robert pictures of children he had sexually abused. Upon seeing the pictures, Robert could feel this intense rage building up inside him, as everyone else would, mate. I don't really blame him for feeling that kind of rage. He was looking at pictures of children who had shared a similar fate to his own. Then, out of a garrote he fashioned from an old necktie, he strangled Farrell to death. This rage would be felt again in the near future. He, as well as the British public, felt that he had done the righteous thing by getting a paedophile off the streets. I mean, the police don't do it, so Maudsley may as well, yeah? I apologise for that, my neighbour's dog's barking. I don't know if you can hear it, but if you can, I apologise. In Robert's own mind, he killed his own father, or someone who represented the things that his father had done. Even though he had no teachings of rules and the laws, he knew murder was wrong, so he went to the police station and handed himself in. He was quoted as saying, "I've just killed a child abuser. Now will you help me?" When the case went to court, due to the nature of the crime, Robert was deemed insane and unfit to stand trial, and he was handed an indeterminate life sentence and then sent to the notorious Broadmoor. If you remember from my video about Sutcliffe, if I even mentioned it, but in case I didn't, and in case you didn't know, Broadmoor is a hospital, for psychiatric hospital for the criminally insane. It looks like a prison, but it's not. Anyway, for years he kept quiet, but on February the 26th, 1977, he and an accomplice named David Cheeseman, what a name, Cheeseman, rushed a convicted paedophile named David Francis into a cell and barricaded the door. What happened in that cell was a 9-hour attack in which Francis was mercilessly beaten and tortured. After 9 hours, the staff managed to get the door open, and when they did, Francis was dead. A spoon had been stuck in his ear and had penetrated the brain. Sources also say that bits of the brain was missing, and hence his nickname, the Brain Eater. His injuries showed that he had received a gradual but extreme attack. His head was cracked open like a boiled egg, and again, as I said, bits of his brain were missing. Similar to when he killed Farrell, Robert was convinced he had done the right thing. It was then that the authorities thought that the attack was premeditated, and that Robert was in fact not insane and was sent to HMP Wakefield. If you don't know what that is, HMP is an abbreviation for His Majesty's Prison, and obviously it's in Wakefield, which is in Yorkshire. It's the toughest prison in the UK, and it's nicknamed Monster Mansion because of all the high-class criminals that inhabit the prison. Because Robert had moved around a lot in his youth, he hated being moved to a prison. When he got there, he literally told the officials, "Don't put me on an open wing because I will kill again." It's like he's literally telling them that, guys, I'm going to kill. If you don't keep me away from these people, I'm going to kill them. So the fact that he's literally begging them and warning them, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. He was saying this because the prisoners in Wakefield were murderers, rapists, and of course, paedophiles. In a letter he wrote many years into his imprisonment, he wrote, "Yes, I can say that I've been raped, and yes, I've been sexually abused by such people, and consequently I do detest these people enough to have killed them in the past. So we have their circumstances from my childhood and adolescence." A few months into his imprisonment, he made a plan. His plan was to kill 7 child abusers in the space of a day. Obviously, because he's been at Wakefield, he'd taken his time to figure out who was who, and when he did, he picked out certain names and put them on his kill list. On July 29th, 1978, he invited a man named Sowney Darwood, who was serving time for killing his wife, to his cell and asked him to come for a chat. When Darwood entered Robert's cell, he was stabbed multiple times with a homemade knife, commonly known as a shiv or a shank in the USA. While Darwood wasn't a child abuser, he was still scum of the earth in Robert's eyes, and in everyone who's normal's eyes. He hid Darwood's body under his bed and called out more names to come for a chat, but when nobody accepted the invite, he left his cell and stalked the halls. One prisoner said that Robert had murder in his eyes, and that even the toughest men in the prison were fearing for their lives. You can only imagine how that looked. During his hunt, he entered the hell of a convicted paedophile named William Roberts, and within minutes, Roberts was dead. Reports say that his head had been smashed against a wall and his skull had been hacked out with the homemade knife. After the attacks, Robert calmly walked into the wing office, placed the dagger on the table and told the officers that the next roll call would be too short. Put yourself in that position, yeah? You're the prison officer. Someone just comes in, puts a knife on the table and says, "You're going to be 2 people short for the next roll call." What would you people think? Let me know in the comments. After this series of attacks, the prison staff no longer wanted Robert to wander around the prison halls or exercising in the yard, so they placed him in solitary confinement. And to say he will stay there a while is an understatement, because he's still there now, and he is Britain's longest serving prisoner. At this time, not many people had heard of Robert Maudsley, but in the coming years, he'd be a household name. In 1983, the BBC, which is a British broadcasting TV station, the BBC went to HMP Wakefield to film a documentary about solitary confinement, and during the filming they came across a man known to authorities as a bomb that they couldn't disarm. After this, his name was soon all over the tabloids, with some of them, the Daily Mail and the Sun, saying that he had eaten the brains of another inmate. Well, that wasn't true, and it's known by almost everyone in the UK that the tabloids don't let the facts get in the way of a good story. The prison staff at Wakefield now felt they had to make an example out of him. They would take the drastic measure of building a maximum security special unit within the maximum security prison, and that was a reinforced bulletproof perspex cage, or plexiglass as the Americans call it, measuring 18 feet by 14 feet, with the bed and furniture made out of compressed cardboard. Basically, if you've seen Silence of the Lambs, that's the sort of cell that Hannibal Lecter's in, and that cell was inspired by Robert Maudsley. He's under watch 24 hours a day, with only 1 hour outside in yet another cage, and because of his violent past, he's accompanied by 4 to 6 guards. This has been going on for years, and because of his lack of contact with other people and his constant isolation, he's going out of his mind, developing speech problems and whatnot. But then again, he's from Liverpool, they've all got speech problems. He had a request put in for a pet budgie, promising to love it and not eat it, but that was denied. He also put in a request for a cyanide pill so he could take his own life, but that was also denied. Robert Maudsley is now 70 years old and has been in prison for 50 years, with around 44 of those years being in solitary confinement. He said that being in solitary is a constant reminder of the time he spent locked in a room for 6 months when he was a kid. Not surprisingly, he blames his parents. I'm not gonna lie, mate, I think if I was in this situation, I think I'd blame the whole world. I'm gonna leave you with a quote that he said. He said, "When I kill, I think I have my parents in mind. Had I killed my parents in 1970, then none of these people need have died. If I had killed them, then I'd be walking around as a free man without a care in the world." Now, how many of you people watching believe that? Another fun fact for you, he met another notorious inmate while he was in solitary called Charles Bronson. And Bronson tried to play peacemaker, tried to make friends with Maudsley. He'd give him a watch, and when Robert asked the guards to throw it away, Bronson called him an ungrateful bastard. Bronson also said that, "I hope to one day run into him at 300 miles an hour, and unlike him, I don't need a weapon. Nobody rips out my heart or eats my brains, especially a fucking nutcase like Bob Maudsley." He's had many appeals rejected for his solitary to be relaxed, for obvious reasons, because he has said that he would happily kill again. But let me know what you guys think. Should he be released from solitary confinement into the open wings? Should he be released from prison in general? I know that's a bit of a debate, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. And thank you for listening to this video. I am going to leave it there. Thank you for listening. Let me know who you want me to cover in the comments next. And I've spoken to Bobsy. We are figuring out a date on another video, so we will keep you posted. And as I said before, we already know which killer we're going to focus on. Another DC Marvel kind of character, at least in our eyes anyway. But if you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, share the video with your friends. It really means a lot, and it really helps me out apparently. Again, I don't know why, it just helps me out. Share it with your friends, as I said. Tell them to subscribe, because every subscriber I get helps, and it means the world to me that you guys are actually listening to this sort of stuff. But yeah, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.